Stories that are untold, underreported, and all-out inspirational. Carey Pena reports.
Hey guys, I'm Carey Pena. Thank you so much for listening to Carey Pena Reports on iTunes and Stitcher, and for watching us on YouTube and Facebook at Inspired Media 360. And you can always find us online at inspiredmedia360.com. Well, school is just about out for summer. And in studio with us today is a man who will spend the summer continuing his crusade for change in schools nationwide. Principal Chris Lineberry, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me,
Boy,
Carey.
we have a lot to talk about. A lot of stuff going on with you. And you really are like spearheading a movement that is so cool. We will also talk about how your school managed to win a $100,000 gym.
Yeah.
I got to go work out there. Sounds incredible.
You're welcome anytime.
But first, I do want to share with the audience a health scare that happened to you, and it really helped for you to crystallize your mission. What happened?
Back in 2006, I was a principal of a small rural school in North Carolina, and it was my first time as a principal. I had started in 2005, and over the course of that year, stress was building. Having been the fourth principal there since the 60s, there was a lot of expectation there, and a lot of challenge. And one day, I just wasn't feeling right, and I called one of the paraprofessionals who also happened to be on the volunteer fire department, and I said, "Diane, can you come up and check my blood pressure?" And she walked in, looked at me, and said, "Son, you're having a heart attack." And I said, "No, I'm fine." And she said, "Does your chest hurt?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Let me take your blood pressure." And then she told me it was 157/109. And it scared, and I said, "All right, Diane, I lied to you. My chest is hurting." And she said, "Well, I'm going to call an ambulance." And I said, "You don't need to do that. I'll just drive myself." And she said, "Son, your mama's not here. I am. You sit down and be quiet. You're not the boss right now." And,
I love Diane.
Yes, I love Diane too, Diane Frick. But we went to the hospital, and they did the tests, and I spent the night in the hospital. And shortly after that, I got back to school and came back to work. And shortly, I was one of the youngest people on the staff. So it really kind of crystallized the need on our staff to say, or the desire on our staff to say, if stress is impacting Chris in this manner, and he's much younger than most of us, what could it be doing to us?
How much did that scare you? I mean, you had a heart attack right there.
It caused everything to change. A lot of times in life, some of the things that you think could be the worst thing that ever happened to you, the scariest things or the most negative, turn out to be tremendous blessings. And I really look at this as a gift. The gift that I received that day when I had my heart attack was that what I thought was important really wasn't. And what I had not paid enough attention to really was. It shifted the whole way that I looked at being an educator and being a leader in schools.
And you're also a father.
I'm also a dad, and at the time I had, my son was, he was 10 years old, and he was scared. And I remember telling him, "Son, this isn't going to happen again. Dad's okay." And I started taking better care of myself, and as a staff, we started to take better care of ourselves. That spring, there was an unfortunate incident with a fifth grade student in a neighboring district, in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg district, which was not mine, but a fifth grade child took his own life over his test scores.
A fifth grader?
A fifth grade child. And as a group, we kind of came together and said, look at the stress it's putting on us. Now we have this horrific incident involving this child. What are we doing? Maybe we need to change our approach. And as a result, we decided, you know what? We're going to get process focused versus objective focused. We're going to get, or outcome focused. We're going to focus on educating children and not just teaching content. And what happened was really amazing. We implemented an hour of physical activity for every kid every day. I had my teachers, I had them integrate health and wellness into the curriculum. So instead of just teaching a math lesson or a language arts lesson, that lesson had to have a health component or a movement component in it. We did that for a year. Actually, we did that for 2 years, the next 2.5 years. During that 2-year time period, we saw 3 years of academic growth in a 2-year time period.
Wow.
With our students.
So you saw hard numbers.
We saw hard numbers. We saw hard evidence. But the other side of the story was we did lipid panels on our whole staff. We partnered with a local hospital. I had 5 people on my staff who were in trouble from a health perspective. And we're told after seeing their numbers, you need to go see your doctor. So we impacted their lives in a profound way by doing that. I had students who talked constantly about movement and how happy they were that they were moving, that they were coming to school. In fact, one of my students at the time was Antonio Brown, who now plays as a running back at...
How cool.
Yeah.
You got him moving. That obviously worked out well.
And I messaged him on Facebook the other day and said, Antonio, that interview that you did, they did a small documentary on our school. That interview you did is up on our website. And he must have gone and looked at it, and he was laughing.
I love your story because you took what was a personal health scare and you allowed that to not only motivate you for your own life, but you want to impact kids. And now you live in Arizona and you are the principal of a school here in Arizona. But you are now traveling the country with a message that we're going to be talking about here. You co-authored this book. Recess was my favorite subject. Where did it go? And I noticed in there that you put this quote: "Criticism is part of the price paid for leaping past mediocrity." It's a quote by Andy Andrews.
Yeah.
Why that quote? There's a lot of pushback.
There is a lot of pushback. And I think that, Andy Andrews is one of my favorite authors. He wrote a book called The Traveler's Gift. And in that gift, he says that. He also talks about Columbus in that book and how Columbus, a number of days into his journey, was in the crow's nest and his men threatened mutiny. And he said, look, we have 5 days of food left. We're 64 days out to sea. We really have no choice. It's either go forward or turn back and not make it. And as a principal and a leader, I can tell you I felt like Columbus in the crow's nest on a couple of occasions. But, the thing about Columbus, too, that Andrews talks about in that book is he did not see land for the first time in October of 1492. He saw it 20 years earlier when he was knocking on doors asking people to fund his journey. You have to have vision. And the vision that we as a consulting company have, and I personally have, and my district has, Stanfield Elementary, is that we don't have to pick between student health and wellness and student achievement, that we can have both, and that we can help children to become healthy, happy, whole people, and not just and academically successful.
I'm so glad you say happy, because that's something that oftentimes we don't hear anyone talking about. In terms of when you listen to educators, amazing educators out there, but people are teaching to the test, and it's so much stress, and it's test scores, and it's grades, and I don't hear a lot of people talk about, well, my student was just happy today. Yeah,
that's what we talk about quite a bit in the book, and that's really where we got the name of our company, Core Purpose. It's helping teachers to connect back to that core purpose. The core purpose of getting into education was not just about a test score. I didn't become a teacher because I was a teacher before I was a principal. I didn't become a teacher just so I could say that my test scores were great. I became a teacher because I wanted to positively impact kids' lives.
I want to read a little bit from your part here when you introduce the book. You say, when I became a principal, I set out to make changes in the curriculum to require physical education for every student at least 4 days a week and create a place where children felt safe and wanted to be at school. I was met with backlash and naysayers telling me that it could not be done. They would say, don't you know where you are? You're at a small school of poor students. You can't do that here. You will fail. Did I know where I was, you say? Yes, I knew exactly where I was. I was in a school like any other school in our country, a place that serves children and families who are deserving of a well-rounded education where there is safety, security, and a nurturing environment. I absolutely love that. And the school that you are the principal of currently has a high minority and what's the breakdown there?
We're 75% Hispanic, 20% Native American, and 5% everything else. And on top of being a high minority school, we're also a very high poverty school. Over 96% of our students live below the poverty level.
So what are some of the things you're doing at your school? Since you have written this book, you're speaking nationwide, traveling. What are you doing specifically at your school to be a change maker? I know I heard through the grapevine that you planted a garden.
Yes. Yeah, we have a beautiful...
Love that.
We have a 22 seed bed traditional garden on our campus where we have melons, tomatoes, cucumbers, onions, carrots, corn, watermelon. We also have some traditional native plants to Arizona. For some of our students, they ride an hour on the bus in the morning after they've walked a mile to get to the bus stop. Many of them who don't have electricity or running water have started campfire in the morning to cook or to heat. Then they've walked to school. Then they walked a mile to the bus. They ride the bus for an hour, and then they come to our school. So it's important to me that whenever they get there, that there's good food, there's a warm, safe environment with adults who care, and that we also not only meet those needs, but that we meet their academic needs as well. So in addition to the traditional garden, we have a 20 seed bed hydroponic garden in our front office. So right when you walk in our door, you see that, and it's not uncommon for the ladies who work in the front office to cut fresh lettuce and vegetables right off of that to make a salad for lunch.
Sounds great.
It is great. It is great. Not only do we do those things, we encourage our school lunches are phenomenal. I don't know that a lot of people would say that about school lunch, but I can tell you that ours are good.
So the gardening and various things that you guys do, also mindfulness training,
Yep.
and it sounds like just on a whole, you're trying to calm things down at your school. While you're pushing the kids to learn, you're also at the same time trying to calm everything down. And what does the mindfulness do?
So there was a study done called the ACEs study, the Advanced Childhood Experiences study. And what they did was they looked at adults in California. Kaiser Permanente did this study. And they looked at their health problems that they had had, and they asked them 10 questions about their lives before. And as a result, they found that if children answer yes to 3 of the questions, then they have an 80% higher chance of struggling with literacy, math, reading. If they answer 4 of those questions with a yes, they have a 2 times the likelihood of becoming of having cancer, twice the risk, and they are 12 times more likely to commit suicide. If they answer more than 6 of them with yes, they have a estimated lifespan shortened by up to 20 years.
What are some of the questions?
So, have you ever experienced domestic violence in your home? Is there substance abuse in your home? Have you lost a parent? Has somebody in your family committed suicide? And when I talked to my staff about this, what I asked them to do was take one of the kids in their class who they see as really having struggles and answer the survey for them in their heads as we talk. I did not have a teacher who didn't have a kid who answered more than 6 yeses.
Wow.
Not one teacher. So what we know is that mindfulness, the act of being present, is very difficult for these kids. They've experienced trauma. When they come to school, they're not as worried about what you're telling them as they are who's going to come through that door, or who's going to be at home tonight, or is he going to be there? What am I going to eat tonight? So what we try and do is help them to get present, and it's just 5 to 10 minutes of being present, getting quiet. There's nothing spiritual or religious about it. It's about getting present and giving kids an opportunity to slow down, unplug, and be there. And I have teachers who swear by it. I have a first grade teacher who says that when she misses a day, the kids are just off the hook.
So you obviously are doing things that are working, and people are listening to you, and you won this grant to get this gym at the school that's like this major $100,000 gym. Tell me about that.
We had there was a competitive grant through the National Foundation of Governors Fitness Councils, and we applied. We took a chance. They were only giving 10, And we won. We won a $100,000 fitness center. Don't Quit, Get Fit fitness center. Governor Ducey and Body by Jake Steinfeld came out, and he's the chairman of that organization, and presented us with the fitness center. And it's now on our campus. It's 2,000 square feet. We have 3 machines at every station, 17 stations. So in our PE classes, these machines are also made for kids. So 56 kids can be engaged in physical activity and health and wellness exercise all at the same time.
What do you think that this says, your successes at this small school in Arizona, to the nation about what can be accomplished?
I think that the only limits that really exist are the ones that are in our mind, that it doesn't really matter where you are. Like I said in the book, there's a quote from Jim Collins from In Good to Great where he says, blood and marrow are essential to human life, but not the purpose of it. I believe that testing and accountability are essential to education, but not the purpose of it. We have a greater purpose. And what we're really trying to do is get people to connect to their core purpose, to connect to why it is that they became educators. Our teachers all wear T-shirts that say, "Ask me my why." Eric Thomas, the YouTube guru, says all the time that, if your why is not bigger than your obstacle will win. You have to have a big why. And in our case, we have a lot of challenges that we face. And I think that when teachers remember what their why is, it helps them to connect to their purpose and to drive and be more driven to help their students be successful. We talk about success and what success means in school. This is what it means to me at my school. We had a couple of kids who recently lost 2 brothers on a Saturday night. They were run over by a drunk driver. That happened on Saturday night. Sunday morning at about 1 o'clock. Monday morning at 7:15, those boys were at school. They were at school because they knew that coming to our school was a safe place. It was a place where they were going to get what they needed in order to be able to get through the day. We're successful at Stanfield Elementary.
Where can people find out more about you guys?
CorePurposeConsulting.com is our website.
Your story is inspiring, and I'm so glad that you are healthy and able to get out there and inspire others. Thank you very much, Chris, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks to all of you for listening to Carey Pena Reports and for watching us. You can always connect with us on Facebook at Inspired Media 360, and be sure to subscribe at inspiredmedia360.com. Today's show produced and engineered by Shannon Hernandez, brought to you by Inspired Media 360. Until next time, stay inspired.